Hello, everybody, and welcome to another SIG Windows meetup. It's the 12th of November, and thank you all for attending. As always, please adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct since this is a recorded meeting. As we mentioned just a second ago before we started getting on the recording, there's no meeting next week due to the KubeCon activities, so I'm hoping that we'll see a lot of you guys, whether that's at the Contributor Summit or at our 2 sessions that we have on Windows. Or just at various locations of the conference. Like for example, Deep and I will be at the meet and greet, and there's a lot of other activities going on in KubeCon as well. Our agenda seems to be pretty light today, but we do have a few areas that we want to get an update on. Patrick, why don't we go with your stuff since I don't see Ben on yet?
Okay. So someone added this thing that says KubeADM to beta status update.
That's me. I wanted to talk to Ben and see where they are on that.
Okay, so you're asking for the status on that.
Ben's not joining today. He's got a conflicting meeting, but I can give the update.
Oh, hey Gab, how are you? Yeah, so yeah, we'll so Gab, you want to go with that right now?
Yeah, I can start. So Ben and I have pretty much been working on moving to KubeADM to beta, and the thing that we decided to focus on was running both kubeproxy as well as Flannel in daemon sets. So that took us down a bit of a rabbit hole, but we think we have a working solution. Or it's working right now. We're just working through the kinks at the moment, and then we're hoping to demo it. I guess not next week, but the week after.
So quick question on that: is all the work out of tree in this case, or is there anything in tree?
It's all out of tree. We just started with like a blank repo for ourselves.
So, okay, excellent. So if we actually get that done, and Patrick, this is where we might have to do a little bit of catch up here with the Kubernetes community. Since the work for KubeADM is out of tree, the only thing that will be remaining for us to graduate to beta will be if the tests in TestGrid are passing, right, which is what Adelina was working on. What do you think? Would that be an acceptable path to move KubeADM to beta?
Well, the other thing is that there was a doc placeholder PR due on Friday, and so I pinged some folks but didn't get an answer on that, so that they may have already pushed it out.
I saw them clear the milestone on that one, but would the docs need to change Gab for KubeADM, or would the script just basically do everything for you?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so Patrick, we can deal with the docs. I think the docs change you can go and get an exception for. I can talk to Genevieve. I think her name is Genevieve. I can talk to Genevieve for that and take care of that next week in person. My biggest worry is if Ben and Gab finish the work where KubeADM upgrades work, installation works. We need to make sure the upgrades work right from 2.16 to 2.17, and we need to make sure that the new work is working well. If we do all of that stuff, is the automation going to be ready so we can actually declare it?
I have a question. I wasn't aware that moving Flannel and kubeproxy into daemon sets was within the scope of this beta graduation. I thought it was just going to be handling upgrade within the scripts. And then I thought we were going to stick with running these as Windows services for now until we get platform support for privileged containers.
I was kind of unsure of that as well. I think during these meetings, we just talked about the automated testing as well as the upgrade. We found the daemon set sort of call out in the original KEP for KubeADM, and that's what sort of brought us down that path.
Oh, okay, yeah, that call out was just so that we were aware, and we had already settled that with the cluster lifecycle people. So basically, they just agreed that we're going to keep it as Windows services. So that worked. As far as I'm concerned, there's no work to be scheduled for having those as daemon sets. Besides, I just don't think that it's necessary right now. the only thing that needed to happen was we needed to see if kubeadm upgrade works out of box, and then it should, but I'm just not sure. And then update the scripts in the SIG Windows tools repo to use that.
So the scripts may or may not need an update, right? Depending on if the upgrades work, correct?
No, because upgrade, I don't even think is it's not implemented in the scripts.
Okay. So okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's too late for this for a number of reasons. So one of them is like the code to actually download and install the new binaries does not exist. We actually haven't even gotten tests online yet because we've been focusing on the containerd stuff first, because that's been the higher priority there. And so I think that if we're going to change our design to use daemon sets, I really think that's something that we should test out for a release in alpha and get tests online for that plus upgrade, just because there's so many moving parts changing there.
Okay.
I don't know what.
Yeah, in that case, then we shouldn't let our foot off the pedal, then continue and kind of finalize this and go down the path, Gab, of what Kalia mentioned around the upgrades and getting that working. And if we get that done after 117 ships, which seems reasonable, then we can immediately shift our focus to cluster API. Gab, why don't you and Ben sync with Kalia offline and make sure that we have the right approach here in terms of the things that she talked to Cluster Lifecycle about, the next things coming up.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and we also I don't even think that the design for how upgrade would work in the scripts, like how we're going to pull the new binaries, how we're going to swap out the scripts, as far as I know, that discussion hasn't been had. So yeah, in general, I just think for 118, it's the best call.
So quick question, how did we pull the binaries for 116?
Well, you pull them from the repo, but you have to get the new binaries, and then you have to replace those and start the new service. And then what I was concerned about is you're going to have to get a new set of scripts possibly because the parameters might change. So I know from 115 to 116, a lot of things broke. If you try to use the same deployment scripts, it wouldn't work because things are getting deprecated and it's just...
and we versioned this correctly, right? So basically we have a folder for 116 and now we need a new folder for 117 that will include the new binaries. Are we basically uploading the binaries into our own repo, or do we actually get them from the Kubernetes?
No, we pull them from Kubernetes.
Okay.
And then also we, I guess they moved the main scripts out, so those are common, and I can understand why, because there are there's a lot of common code, so if you find a bug, you'd have to fix it in both repos. But I do worry that, again, because of how arguments change and everything, that it may not be the best idea to do that. So right now, the only things that are in the actual version folders are the JSONs.
Got it. Okay. All right. So there is some work there to be done. Find a new location for the binaries, download them. Use if any new arguments are there, handle those, plus handle the upgrades from the previous version.
Yeah, I think for this, we just need to establish what we're going to do. We need to establish the protocol for what we consider to be an upgrade and how we're going to handle that in the scripts.
Okay, thank you, Kalia.
How does this work for the same problem exists for Linux as well, right?
Well, they have daemon sets for a lot of things. So the thing is, so the way it works for Linux is you have to replace kubelet yourself, and then you just run a kubeadm upgrade, and then it'll update the config map that's stored within the cluster, and it'll patch the kubeproxy daemon set. And I'm not sure how it'll work for Flannel, but I imagine, no, that has no bearing. So yeah, between kubelet and kubeproxy, those things will get upgraded through that, either manually for kubelet or through the daemon set for proxy. But they don't have this idea of this script that we have to manage all the services and dependencies and everything.
Patrick, my opinion is, given that daemon set is also parallelly happening, we trying to solve the download of binaries artificially is not going to fly well in the future releases. I think we should stick to the engineering idea that daemon set is coming in Windows, and let's not work around it more and more. It's my opinion.
Well, yeah, I kind of agree. Instead of downloading the binaries, we can actually ask the user to go get them from the right location, as long as it's the right version, and then we can validate it, right? So we can check the minor version. Like, if, for example, if you're running the script for 117, validate that 117 is in the binaries that are being used, and fail otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we've made a lot of progress here, and so it'd be good to just kind of write it down and double check everything before we move forward. And regarding the binary thing, we're still gonna have to solve that problem for the kubelet, even if the rest is daemon sets.
Fair enough.
And I think that applies to other things too, right? Like containerd or Docker, like the runtime itself needs to be updated in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, I typed some notes in our document. So Gab, if you didn't take full notes for this, you can see some of these as well.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so should you talk about the node problem detector solution discussion, or go directly to 117 updates, Patrick?
Well, we've got 15 minutes left, and so I think we want to make sure that we get the stuff covered for 117. So one of the other things I was graduating was the run as username was moving to beta. There's no design or functional change there, but so what we needed to do is basically when we go from alpha to beta, we needed to turn the feature on by default in the feature gate. And so Mark made a PR to do that. And then I've got a corresponding doc PR there. And so I think it's just, okay, it looks like it just needs an LGTM for me. Claudio, since you started this, did you have any feedback on this before we approve and merge it?
I've already commented on the pull request. It's all good for me. Everything's fine. There's only for containerd maybe some issues that Adrien previously flagged.
Yeah.
But that can be fixed in containerd itself.
Okay.
Not in kubelet. So we can go ahead with this.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So we'll get this one moving along then. So let me share the project board that I have here. Okay, so looking at the other stuff on here, so the run as username to beta, I'm going to move that in progress because it's getting ready to merge. Okay, so most of these are containerd. For GMSA, I think we've got no changes for 117, except for the tests have come online. So I'm not tracking anything else there for 117. The kubeadm we just discussed. So put that back there. Containerd, CSI, we're not changing anything for 17.
On the CSI, did you guys do a review of all the providers last week, like we talked about, or did that not happen?
No, hey, so I can give a update right now if you want. So basically, for the CSI, it's pretty much been Azure and GCPD has been tested with a prototype version of it, of the CSI proxy, but the actual CSI proxy changes in the main repo that it'll come out of. That's still in progress at the moment.
Did you say Azure?
Yeah, the Azure disk is being looked at by KK from Microsoft. He has been also attending the CSI Windows forum that we have.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the two ones that they've tested out with the proxy, just showing that the end-to-end works. Azure Disk and GCPD by Jingzhu from Google. But the actual CSI proxy code itself with the different support for the multiple versions and stuff like that, that is still happening. There are a couple of main PRs that needs to be reviewed probably over the next 2 weeks. That should shake out. And once that happens in 1.18, we can plan for a beta with the proxy in a release.
Okay.
That's working end-to-end.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So looking at the containerd stuff, the main thing we're focusing at right now on is actually moving the test passes over to the containerd master branch. So up until last week, we were testing on Justin Terry's fork, and he and Lantau took the main changes that were needed for process isolation support in containerd and got them merged back into the containerd branch for 1.4. And so a whole bunch of those things, are all marked as done over here. But what we realized was there was a change that wasn't ported over that affected how some path parsing worked. And so that was actually causing a bunch of pods to fail to start in the test passes. And the reason is that the kubelet was creating some paths that had slashes facing the wrong way. And so we've got a workaround on the CRI side that Adeline is going to try doing a private test on, just to see if that actually resolves it or if there are still other issues hiding behind that. But the key thing is that we need to get this testing over on the master branch, because that's what we're actually going to be using on test grid. And right now, almost everything's failing because of that. And so we're focusing on getting that fixed. And then the other, and then so there's some other bug fixes or bug fix PRs that are here being reviewed. And so I'm pinging people in SIG node for those. The kubeadm scripts, I'm still working on those, but they're pretty close to done. And then, but yeah, we've just got a number of bugs that still need to be looked at, but they're kind of blocked behind that other one we just found. So at this point, I would say it's still sort of, it's not a sure thing. We've got a lot of bug fixes that we need to get done in the next few days. And so one of the things I'm going to look at is seeing whether or not it's possible to carry some of these bug fixes past this Thursday, or if there are things that we can move out to beta, because I think our criteria wasn't 100% passing, but right now we're closer to 100% failing. And so I need to look at that a little more carefully, and I guess I'll share an update with the list on like Wednesday or Thursday to see where we're at before code freeze, to see if it's something that we think we can fix, just carry a few bug fixes in there, or go from there. I don't know, did you have any thoughts on that, Michael or Deep or anybody?
No, no additional thoughts from me.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'm trying to get back to the notes.
By the way, one thing to note, some of these bugs, I don't know if they were all in the list that you just went through. There's some of them that inherently will be fixed by just by moving into containerd, right? There was some issues around, the networking stack being called multiple times. There was one about slowness that that basically the performance of the kubelet was very slow in terms of getting the stats, and someone mentioned that just by moving to container D will be fixed. Are you going to resolve those once container D gets in that state, or are we going to individually go back at them later on?
Well, yeah, so some of these are in here. The stats one, we haven't had time to evaluate it yet, but otherwise I think we could basically resolve those and say, okay, these ones are going to be fixed with container D, but
Okay.
we'll probably want to actually put a milestone on them for like 18 or 19 for either beta or stable once those are actually there by default, because I don't think people are going to switch to container D while it's still in alpha.
No, probably not.
Yeah. So we just want to track those for.
Well, we can tell them, like, we can be honest with them and tell them we're not going to fix this for Docker shim. It's going to come out with container D. We'll resolve this ticket right now because we already did the work. When you move, you'll see the benefits. I mean, for us, we can't keep those bugs forever. We need to resolve them, and when they move, they'll see the benefit.
I agree. I think we already updated the comment section on those bugs, but I think we should probably update it once the container D is fully up and running.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for, Dinesh. I think we update the docs, the comments there. Like, once we ship it, we'll close these tickets and tell them this is the path moving forward.
Yes.
Well, but I do want to make sure we don't lose track of the doc and recommendation updates, though. So I'd kind of like to keep the issues open until we go and update the docs and say, okay, container D is recommended to get this fix, even if there's no code work needed. So if we don't do that, then would we just file like a doc issue and track on that instead?
Yeah, I mean, for the ones that require doc issues, I'm okay with actually either keeping track of an open doc issue or maybe keeping the bug open. But for some of them, don't have it. Like, for example, the stats API is slow and container D fixes it. There's nothing user perceivable or user impacting. Or the other one that Dinesh worked on like almost a year now, where
multiple endpoints.
Yeah, the multiple endpoints. So that one doesn't have an impact to the user. Once we fix it, we should just close it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those ones I'm okay with. It's the ones around like single file mapping and.
I agree with you on those. Those require dog updates, and probably we wouldn't be able to make those dog updates for alpha. So in that case, we'll just wait for beta.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Does anybody have other topics for today?
There were a couple of topics up at the top. I don't know if we want to look at those.
Oh, node problem detector?
Yeah.
Was anybody taking follow-ups on that? Because I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I don't know who that one was for.
Yeah, I don't know who added it. It wasn't me. All right, I guess maybe we'll talk about that next week. I know he talked about node problem detector a long time ago with conjunction with, with SIG node, but I don't know if anybody went back and looked into that.
Oh, I think this was you from Google who brought it up last week.
Okay, I'll move it to the next week then, after KubeCon, right before Thanksgiving. I don't know if people will show up for that week. That'd be interesting.
Thanksgiving week. Huh?
Yeah, Thanksgiving week is. Yeah. All right, I'm moving that there right now.
Okay.
All right, cool.
All right, well, thanks everyone. I'm going to jump on over to the SIG node call.
All right, excellent. Well, everybody have a great rest of your day. Have a great safe travels to KubeCon, and hopefully we'll see a lot of you guys there next week in sunny San Diego. Bye.
See you on Sunday.
Yeah, bye.